The lights are dim, the camera is recording, and Diane Lane sits back in her chair with the kind of smile that has made 1,000 movie scenes unforgettable. Half playful, half mysterious. She laughs in a low, smooth way. The kind of laugh that makes you want to lean in closer just to hear what she'll say next. "You really want me to answer that?" she asks playfully, her eyes sparkling. At 60, I've learned that being honest can be a little risky, especially when it's about good-looking men. The interviewer smiles, encouraging her to continue, and she sighs. A slow, dramatic breath out that feels like the beginning of a story. "Look," she says, "I've spent my whole life working with handsome, talented men. Some too young, some too perfect, all just out of reach. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about it. But I'm a lady," she adds with a wink that says she's only half serious. She crosses one leg over the other, looking relaxed and natural, her voice dropping into that smoky storytelling rhythm. There's a difference between daydreaming and actually doing something. And trust me, the daydream is the better part. You get to keep the mystery. You get to keep the excitement. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is stop right before you make the mistake you'll never forget. Her smile gets wider, knowing, and a little dangerous. But I'll tell you this. There were 6 men who made me forget my lines, my coolness, and maybe a few of my good manners. I never crossed the line, she says, leaning closer. But I thought about it more than once. She sits back, eyes shining with the playfulness of a woman who's still got plenty of stories left to tell. "So, who were they?" she says, laughing quietly. "Let's just say some of Hollywood's best men made being professional very hard." She grins again, slow and confident. "And at 60, I'm finally old enough to admit it. 1. Richard Gere." Diane's smile turns slow like she's remembering something sweet. "Richard Gere," she says. The name alone is enough to make her sigh and laugh. You can't really work with Richard and not talk about chemistry. It's in the eyes, the calmness, that quiet confidence that fills the room before he even says a word. She folds her hands, remembering when we started Unfaithful. He was all graceful, very calm, very ready. I thought, well, that's going to be easy. Then he looked at me during our first practice reading, and I completely lost my spot on the page. Not because he did anything special, just because he has that stillness, that attention. You feel seen, not just watched, but really seen. It's powerful. Her laugh turns warmer, and then you spend months pretending to be in love with someone like that. Long days, emotional scenes, almost no personal space, and suddenly the acting starts to feel a little too real. There's a kind of dance that happens. A look, a pause, a heartbeat you can hear between filming. You stay in character a little longer than you need to. Everyone on set pretends not to notice. She shakes her head. By the time we did nights in Rodanthe, it was like continuing a conversation that had never really ended. We'd joke with each other between takes. He'd quote something from Unfaithful. I'd roll my eyes, and somehow the joking made the scene softer, more human. That comfort is rare. It's what lets the audience believe what they're seeing. Her tone drops, quiet and amused. I've always said Richard has a kind of elegance that's risky. It sneaks up on you. You think you're fine, then he smiles, and you forget what you were about to say. That's a work hazard, right? She laughs again. That bright knowing sound. So yes, working with Richard was like standing next to a warm fire. You don't mean to get close, but it just pulls you in. I behaved, she adds, still smiling. But the line between acting and real feeling was very, very thin. 2. Kevin Costner. Diane laughs before she even starts. "Kevin," she says, shaking her head. "That man could make just standing still look like he's a hero. I remember the first day on Let Him Go. He walked onto the set with his hat in hand. That low voice, that steady way of looking at you. It's not flashy. It's a pull that draws you in before you realize you're moving." She settles back, her voice getting softer. Kevin has this quiet strength. You feel safe around him, but there's something underneath. A challenge, a spark. When we'd practice a scene, he never forced it. He just listened, really listened. And it changed how you said the next line. That's chemistry, the kind you can't practice. She grins, eyes bright. He teases you without saying a word. You'll be in character thinking about your next line, and he'll give you that half smile. Not a big grin, just a hint of one. And suddenly, you're not thinking about the line anymore. You're thinking, "Don't turn red on camera." Diane laughs again, the memory clearly still fresh. There's a lot of power in being still. Kevin can make a whole room go quiet just by crossing his arms. You try acting next to that. It's like playing chess with a storm cloud. You have to stay steady, or he'll steal the scene by doing absolutely nothing. Her tone turns gentle, but he's also one of the nicest people I've worked with. Completely professional, thoughtful, protective of the moment. When you're filming something that emotional, you need that. He gives you space to be vulnerable. She glances at the interviewer, smiling. I'll say this. Working with Kevin Costner taught me that strength doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it just stands there calm and unbothered and lets you feel every beat of it. 3. Josh Brolin. Diane smiles when his name comes up. The kind of smile that shows equal parts amusement and respect. Josh, she says, he's pure energy, all instinct and toughness. You feel it before he even says hello. She leans back, remembering when we worked together on Jonah Hex. He had that restless energy that makes a scene unpredictable in the best way. He's not the kind of actor who does the same thing twice. He'll look at you a little differently, change the tone of a line, and suddenly the whole scene feels alive. You have to keep up, or you'll get swept into whatever storm he's creating. Her laugh is quick and real. He has that wild side, but it's mixed with this surprising gentleness. He'll do a take that feels like thunder, and then between setups he's making jokes, making sure you're okay in the heat and dust. That mix, danger and kindness, it's magnetic. She tilts her head, eyes sparkling with quiet humor. There's an intensity about Josh that sneaks up on you. You think you're just playing a scene, and then you catch the way he's looking at you and realize you've both stopped acting for half a second. That's when you know you're in good territory. The space where trust and tension overlap. Her tone softens. He's fearless. And that kind of confidence spreads to others. Working with him reminded me that acting at its best is a dance. Rough around the edges, but full of rhythm. She smiles, the corners of her eyes wrinkling. Josh Brolin is one of those actors who makes you better without even trying. And yes, she adds with a wink, he's exactly as interesting off camera as he is on it. 4. Matt Dillon. At the sound of his name, Diane's smile changes. It's softer, almost like remembering the past. Matt, she says, that one takes me back. We were both kids, really, trying to look like adults who knew what they were doing. She laughs. He had that quiet coolness that every director in the 1980s wanted. The way he'd lean on a wall, not say a word, and somehow still own the shot. Meanwhile, I was trying to keep up, trying not to look like I was impressed and failing. Terribly. Her eyes shine with playfulness. Matt was one of those actors who could make silence feel like talking. You'd be standing there waiting for your turn and realize he was already telling a whole story just by looking at you. That kind of focus is rare and risky because it pulls you in. She grins, shaking her head. We were so young, but even then he had presence. We'd be practicing lines and he'd do this half-smile thing, not on purpose, just something that happened. And suddenly I'd forget what line came next. It's funny, decades later I can still picture that look. Her tone warms. He's grown into that same calm power he had back then. Just steadier now, more polished. Some people lose their spark with age. Matt just let his shine mature. You can feel it even now when you see him on screen. It's still there, just quieter, like a slow burn instead of a bright flame. She glances at the interviewer, laughing softly. You know how some co-stars remind you of a time in your life? Matt Dillon will always be that for me. That mixture of nervousness and excitement, the sense that something big was just beginning. 5. Tom Cruise. Diane laughs the moment his name comes up. Tom, she says, was all energy, pure, fearless movement. Even back in The Outsiders days, he walked onto a set like a shooting star. You could feel it before you saw him. She leans back, remembering. We were all so young, just trying to find our footing. And Tom already had that focus, that drive. He wasn't the biggest star in the room yet, but you could tell he was going to be. There's a kind of certainty about him that's impossible to ignore. Her smile widens. He had this way of talking. Fast, full of ideas, always moving. It was contagious. You'd be exhausted at the end of a day's filming, and he'd still be bouncing around, planning the next take, the next stunt, the next everything. I admired that. It made you want to keep up. She laughs softly. He's also got this charm that sneaks up on you. It's boyish but sharp. He looks you straight in the eye when you're talking, and for a second it feels like the rest of the world's gone quiet. That kind of focus is powerful, and it works just as well off camera as it does on. Her tone turns thoughtful. I think that's what makes him so good on screen. That combination of intensity and positivity. When he connects with you in a scene, you believe him completely. You don't act, you respond. She grins again. Tom was one of those people who made the set feel electric. You left the day a little lighter, a little faster, and definitely more awake than you'd planned to be. 6. Christopher Lambert. Diane's smile turns thoughtful when his name comes up. Christopher, she says, had that European mystery about him. Calm on the surface, but you always felt something happening underneath. She folds her hands as if replaying a scene. On night moves, we spent long hours together on set, working through complicated dialogue and emotional beats. He had this focus that drew you in. When he listened, he really listened. It made even the quiet moments between takes feel charged, like you were sharing a secret that didn't need words. Her laugh is soft. He's got that accent, of course. It does half the work for him. He'd ask a question or make a joke, and you'd forget what you were supposed to say next. That gentle, slightly mischievous energy. It kept everyone on their toes. She shakes her head lovingly. Christopher was all about precision. Every look, every pause had meaning. Acting with him was like playing a game of chess. Fitting. Considering the film, and half the fun was trying to stay one move ahead, her eyes warm with appreciation. He was generous, though. That's what I remember most. He wanted the scene to breathe, to feel honest. There's a quiet confidence in people who don't need to take over a moment but can still make it come alive. Diane smiles a little wistfully now. We came from different worlds, Hollywood and Paris, but for those few months it felt like we spoke the same movie language. It was mysterious, elegant, and just unpredictable enough to stay in your mind long after the cameras stopped.